Hello, people of God. You are welcome to the fourth episode of our series on loving God versus fearing Him. In this episode, we will be looking at what it means to fear God. And our perfect example for this discussion is no other than Abraham. The story begins in Genesis chapter 12, where God calls Abraham out of his nation and then sent him away. At the time, Abraham was 75 years. And the only thing he heard from God was the command to move out and then the promises that God gave him. In chapter 15, God comes to remind Abraham of the promises he had given him. And Abraham started questioning the promises because God had blessed him materially, but he had no heir. And the more reason why he was right to ask was because God had promised him that his heir or his seed shall take the land or inherit the land. And in chapter 17, Abraham was still with no child with his wife Sarah. And yet God had called to have a covenant with him and then his seed. And the Bible says the man was 99 at the time. So imagine a person calls you at the age of 75, promises you he is going to make you a father of many nations, and at the age of 99, you do not have a child of your own with your beloved wife. What would you have done? But in spite of all these things that happened, Abraham didn't stop trusting God. He didn't stop obeying God, and he didn't stop believing in God. Fast forward in chapter 21, Abraham and his wife Sarah gave birth to Isaac. And in chapter 22, God tested Abraham, asking him to offer his only beloved son. Now, I want us to read this verse because it is very interesting. It is very interesting. From Genesis chapter 22, it says, "And it came to pass after these things, that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham, take now thy son, thy only son, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee." Now, this is very interesting because God could have asked him to offer the boy at his current location, right? But God asked him to travel a distance to a different place, climb a mountain, and then offer the boy there. Now, listen carefully. They traveled for 3 days just to see the mountain which God wanted him to offer the boy. And then the Bible says that they continued, though it didn't specify the time it took for them to reach the place after the first 3 days journey. What we can tell from this is that, first of all, God started teasing him that bring your son, your only son, which you love, right? Trying to make Abraham know exactly what he's going to lose or going to miss if this offering goes through. And then he made him travel a distance so that on the way, Abraham can think about it and then make up his mind whether to continue with it or to give up on the way. But Abraham followed God's command and then went to the mountain. And just when he was about to offer his child, God stopped him. Now, what can we learn from this story? Number one, Abraham obeyed God when he couldn't see the benefit in the near future. Though he had been promised, but it took him a long time before he saw just one fulfillment of the most important promise he received from God. And even with that, he was later asked to offer the boy. Meaning that Abraham trusted God, he feared God, and he obeyed God even when he couldn't see the clear benefit in it for him. Now, the second thing we can say is that Abraham followed and obeyed God even when it was not convenient for him. Imagine you want me to offer my son, and you made me cover a distance to climb a mountain just to offer my only son, my beloved son. That's serious. But it was inconvenient to him. Abraham wasn't happy about it, most definitely. But he was willing to obey God. And then finally, Abraham obeyed God to the end. He obeyed him till the end, until he was just about to offer the boy, and then God said, do the boy no harm. Now, these days there are people who will only obey God when they can see the clear benefit. There are people who will only obey God when it is convenient. And there are people who will only obey God when it makes sense to them. But when you obey God when it is convenient, when you obey God when you see the clear benefit, when you obey God when it makes sense to you, that doesn't show your fear for him. No. For a person to fear God is to obey him till the end, no matter how unreasonable the commands may be. Now, you cannot tell me that all these things that happened was as a result of love. No. Yes, I can love you, but I cannot do things that will inconvenience me. In fact, the Bible even said, love your neighbor as yourself, not love your neighbor more than yourself. So if I am to love you and the loving you will cause me inconvenience, I'm not going to do it unless I fear you. So that is what it means to fear God, to obey him when you cannot see the clear benefit, to obey him when it is inconvenient, and then to obey him to the end. I do hope you are blessed by this message. I will see you with another one. Until then, stay blessed.